Hey everyone, what's going on? If you've been following my blog, then you would know that the uncle that I have talked about for the last 2 weeks in regards to the Flintstones and how it seems that his life has been super synced up to a lot of the things that I've been mentioning, especially in regards to the Super Bowl. But anyway, he actually died on January 14th. The interesting thing about it is, the big deal I was talking about was that he had cancer, and he actually, they don't even know for sure what he died from. He got in a car wreck on Friday the 13th, which is just super interesting. All of these things that I keep talking about, they seem to happen the next day. Sorry, I have no idea what was going on. My cat and my dog were going crazy at each other. They've never really done it that bad before. It's weird, but anyway, what I was talking about was it seems like everything that I talk about, it seems like it's literally been happening the very next day or something that's involved with it. I was talking about all of the key of David stuff, and Jesus was supposed to be the one who has the key of David and whatnot. And the very next day we got the death of Keon Carpenter, and Jesus was the carpenter. Talked about, it's just all kinds of stuff. William Peter Blatty just died, the guy from The Exorcist, or the guy who wrote The Exorcist. And I literally just re-looked this guy up after this Orlando stuff. We had this Orlando cop that was shot, and they were looking for the suspect or whatever, Markeith Lloyd. His name in Jewish gematria equals 717, and the whole story began at 717 at Walmart. And can't even remember. There was other 717 stuff. But I was looking through my notes because I noticed that the chief's name was Chief John Minna. And in 2015, there was a story about the Hajj pilgrimage and 717 people got trampled to death. And it was in Minna, Saudi Arabia. So I thought, how interesting. There's a bunch of 717 in this Orlando story. And then it's, 717 dead in this Minna, Saudi Arabia story. I even talked about how in the Hebrew alphabet, the name for Yahweh looks a lot like 717, and I'm talking about all of these Jesus connections. And that Hajj stampede even happened on the 17th anniversary of Flight 17, or actually, that flight MH17 was on 717, and it was the first plane wreck there for 17 years. It had nothing to do with the Hajj pilgrimage. But anyway, the reason that it was connected to William Peter Blatty is because in the exorcism in Erling, Iowa, and it's been 88 years, this Orlando shooting, it happened at Walmart. Walmart equals 88. I've talked about how 88 is this number that I've seen a lot in regards to satanic ritual things over the years of doing this research. And this exorcism in Erling, Iowa was the first famous exorcism in the United States, and it's partially based, the story of it is partially based on William Peter Blatty's book, The Exorcist, and also the movie and whatnot. So I was re-looking this guy up because the girl in the story, one of the demons that was after her, was her stepmom, Minna, right? M-I-N-A. And then, 2 days later, William Peter Blatty turns up dead. Even we just got the death of Eugene Cernan. And at the end of November, I made a post in regards to him because him and Neil Armstrong were the first guy and the last guy to walk on the moon. And I was watching the Purdue-Wisconsin game, I believe it was. And they did a little deal, and they talked about how Eugene Cernan and Neil Armstrong both went to Purdue University and whatnot. I made a small little post on it. I might make a video on this at a different time, but I just wanted to point out, this guy turns up dead now. They both died at the age of 82. Neil Armstrong died at 82. The first and the last, just like what I was talking about in regards to the Packers and the Alpha and the Omega. I talked about my uncle. His Barney Murphy equals 166 in gematria, and there's a whole bunch of other connections, but the movie Oblivion, it seems to foreshadow that 2017 will be where the last Super Bowl is played. And I said, how fitting would that be for the Packers, who won the first Super Bowl, to come in and win whatever, supposedly the last Super Bowl. And the machine or the drone that Tom Cruise is fixing is drone number 166. So it connected to my uncle and a bunch of stuff that I was talking about. So anyway, there's just so many weird things that keep happening. I truly think that all of this coding is so much bigger than I will ever truly be able to understand. There's definitely men who know what's going on, but it's definitely bigger than that. I don't think that it's just men sitting around, scripting everything and worrying about a little peon like me and scripting my life. That doesn't make that much sense. It has to be either some type of technology that I don't understand or don't know about, or it's truly spiritual, or something alike, which that is what I am leaning towards for sure. It really, truly seems like it's definitely something bigger in regards to some type of spirituality thing. And, the very same day that my uncle died, I got a letter in the mail. I mean, just weird that you get a letter in the mail on the same day that your uncle dies. And I've got one from the same person before, and I know they're not being malicious. They're not. It's a really inspirational, they've sent me a couple letters. They're actually really inspirational. But the message in these letters that I've got are basically saying, all of the signs are right in front of you. It's Jesus. I need to just open my eyes and accept Jesus and proclaim Jesus and believe in Jesus, which, all of these things, they truly keep showing me Jesus. It seems like I am getting shown all of this, and it is leading me to Jesus and whatnot. Even the lady who's sending these letters, in Gematria, her name equals 151, just like Jesus Christ. But the thing is, possibly I just need to study the Bible more and study I don't know. Possibly I'm missing something. Possibly I should be doing everything that this person is telling me. But me as a thinker, there's things that don't make sense, Like in this last letter, she was talking about how the occult are people who reduce things down to numbers and whatnot. But, the occult are the same people who retranslated the Bible. They're the same people who rewrote the Bible. The Bible is all about numbers and the matrix and, and there's a guy that I don't even know him. He's just on my friends list on Facebook. I remember months ago, I was reading some post that he had. He had a picture of him in a Freemason hat. And I don't know this guy at all. There's a bunch of rappers or something added me from the Don't Funk Up Your Beat contest from years back or whatever. But he had a picture of a Freemason hat and he was reading the King James Bible. And then he even wrote in there, like, the Mason Bible is the King James Bible, So if these occultist people are coding things into the Bible, why would you read the Bible and take it as the correct truth? It just doesn't seem to make that much sense to me. And I do think that these signs and these things, I truly can see them with my own eyes, and I see that they are going on. But that leads me to believe that the Jesus that everybody loves so much is possibly not the guy. I mean, he's real, but he's possibly not somebody that everybody should be worshiping if a lot of these Freemasons and everything else, believe in him. If there truly is a guy just like Jesus, then his name is definitely not Jesus, for one. There's no way. Why would his name equal the same as Muhammad and Lucifer and cross and gospel and Messiah. Why would it equal 74 like that? That doesn't make that much sense. And possibly that's what they're telling me in this letter. Possibly I'm just misinterpreting what they're saying, you know. And I'm not being mean about this letter whatsoever. In fact, I'm actually very grateful. They sent me $300 this last time as well, which I cannot accept it. I will be sending it back, but I'm actually going to hold on to it for another month until my girlfriend gets her tax return. I was actually going to send it back on Monday, but then she told me on Sunday night that she got fired at her job on Friday, so I possibly might need it. So when she gets her tax return, if it's not there by then, you'll definitely have it in the next month or something. I'll be sending it back. So, I mean, thank you very much, but I just can't accept it. It's just no way. And I'll also be sending a letter with it, you know, because there's more that I want to say than what I just said there. You know, I'm just right now just kind of rambling and just kind of making it very simple and short. It's not that, yeah, I'll definitely respond and send something more to go along with it. So I guess, you know, my main worry is just that Jesus is part of it. You know, he is part of the occult. That's what these occult people actually worship, and they try to make everybody think that it's something good, when in reality it's just getting everyone to worship what they truly worship in the end. And everybody thinks that when they get to the 33rd degree, they get so high and they start worshiping Satan or whatever else, possibly they truly are just worshiping Jesus like they think, and they just learn more of what Jesus truly is, you know? And possibly I am completely wrong, you know? I don't know. It's just things that, you know, I just think about things. I constantly think. It takes a lot for me to accept something and to believe it. It just does. I mean, there's the signs, I don't even know how to put to words what I'm saying, to tell you the truth. The signs are very obvious. It seems that it is completely pointing me to Jesus. But I mean, all of this stuff really started ramping up around the same time that Zach's house is getting run into, and you got Montegraph on YouTube making a video about a squirrel, and then there's a dead squirrel in his yard, and then he makes a video about his house get something on Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas Eve Zach's house gets run into. I mean, it just seems weird. It seems like, you know, I don't know. I totally don't think that whoever's sending me these letters is a bad person whatsoever. I didn't mean it like that, but it's just strange. And you know what? It wasn't just you that I got a letter from on that day. My uncle died on January 14th, the day that I received this letter. And I also got an email from somebody who had just commented like a week or so ago, and they're from Council Bluffs, the area that I live. I don't think this is a bad person either, but it's very strange. They sent me a message on that same day, and it just so happened to be their birthday of all days, and then my uncle dies on that day, and 114 is a big number, which I will get into as we move along, and I'm sorry that I'm making this video so long, but, you know, I just want people to see what I am talking about, and so we can all learn from it, I guess. That's the whole point. Also, I will be responding to the person in the email as well. I just, you know, my uncle died. I've had a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I've been up to my mom's house a few times. I had to work. I got a lot of other stuff going on. It's just crazy. So eventually I will get to your message and I will respond. But anyway, let's move on here then. So hopefully all of that makes sense. You know, I posted a post about my uncle being in a car accident too on January 13th, Friday the 13th. And, you know, just interesting because this all started when he gave me the number 13 Dan Marino jersey. So just interesting. That's how it connected to Miami. Miami equals 45, 13 equals 45. And, I may have been wrong about the Miami Dolphins, but there's a definite big Miami thing going on. I still think it's connected to the Key of David, the Florida Keys, and whatnot. I mean, we even had the shooting supposedly at the Martin Luther King Day thing, just yesterday or whatever. So we had that. We had the Fort Lauderdale shooting. Lots of stuff connected to Miami still. So, regardless, I even talked about my cousin who lives in Miami. And then the next day we got the Fort Lauderdale shooting that's really close to where he lives, really close to where the Miami Dolphins play. Anyway, as I was writing up this blog post on January 13th, I was listening to this video right here, Zachary K. Hubbard, Friday the 13th, and he's talking about his owning his house or whatever. And, I was literally listening to it, just looking up some stuff, and then kind of typing this blog post. And right as I wrote this right here, not only that, but Friday the 13th, he literally said, and not only that on this video, right as I started typing it. And I thought, that is some strange stuff, And it just seems to keep happening. Remember, too, a lot of stuff happened to me when I was listening to the Gematria Effect one night, and I was listening to the Lithium channel, a whole bunch of stuff in regards to Flipper and flipping, and the Key of David, and the Miami Dolphins. But look when he says it. It's at 15:02 in the video, and I know that he didn't plan this. It wasn't like he sat down and planned it and said, I'm going to say not only that, and then make when Dan Barrett says not only that when he's typing on his blog, it's going to come up. No way. Absolutely no way. It's so much bigger than that. So anybody who comes on here and tries to discredit him or something, no way. There's no way that he planned that and made it happen to me. It just doesn't make that much sense. But 15:02, Super Bowl LI equals 152 in Gematria. 15:02, and then it's 50 minutes, 12 seconds long. The same numbers, 152, 512. I also noticed that he had 1,032 views is what YouTube showed me. And the word cancer equals 132. I'm talking about my uncle who has cancer. Also, it had 175 comments on it. And my uncle just so happened to die 175 days after his birthday. With the end date, it's 176, and I'll get into that, but 175 days after his birthday. And I even found out that he's a huge Cubs fan. Baseball is his favorite sport. He is a huge Cubs fan. 108 likes on this video. The Cubs were all about 108 this year. He was a Miami Dolphins fan too, which, interesting. I always thought he was a Bears fan or something, but that explains more of why he would have had an old Dan Marino jersey that he gave me, So whatever, I made this post, talked about the 175, because with the end date on January 13th, it was 175 days after his birthday. And the next day then, well, I clicked on the wrong post here. The very next day, so he got in this car wreck. I clicked on the wrong post again, but I'll find it eventually. Holy cow. Here we go. The very next day, so he got in this car wreck on January 13th, and they found him, whatever, he was unconscious. They woke him up, and they took him to the Denison Hospital, a town that I've talked about a lot, but it's just on the way, whatever, who knows, possibly a coincidence. Anymore, I don't think so, but they took him there, and he had a little bit of bleeding on his brain, so they took him to the hospital in Omaha to do further testing, but he was awake and aware, and I guess he couldn't talk or something, but, they also removed, he had tongue cancer or throat cancer or something, and they took, a lot of his tongue, so he couldn't really talk anyway. But he was awake, aware, writing people messages, and no big deal, My mom didn't go down because she thought, well, whatever, he's okay. And then, at noon on Saturday, the 14th, he was writing a message and then just dropped the pen, and his eyes rolled back or whatever, and then he just, whatever, he never woke up. And then my mom went in and whatever and talked to him and all that, and then he died at like 4:50 that day. So, I mean, it's just, it's absolutely weird. And possibly he had a stroke or something, which, you know, it seems like that's probably what happened. But I want to show some things in regards to this post that just make me question a lot of things, because he was a fourth degree Knight of Columbus, and he completely died by the numbers. He also had met a lot of, you know, politicians, and he even ran for the House of Representatives, I believe. Just, man, I don't even remember exactly when. A few years back, probably. I'm trying to think. It's probably like 5 years ago or something. And in his obituary, it even says that he's a friend of Ben Nelson. And Ben Nelson is a former Nebraska senator, which is interesting. Like, look at his birthday. May 17th, which can be written 17/5, and my uncle dies 175 days after his birthday. He's friends with this guy. I don't know. There's some other interesting things here. If you include the end date, he died 176 days after his birthday. And if you write my full name out, it equals 176. Talk about weird coincidence, you know. He also died 614 days after my last uncle to die or whatever, my Uncle Mike. 614 days. And which is interesting because Barney Murphy equals 166 in Gematria. This year, I talked about how Donald Trump, his birthday was on the 166th day of the year because of the leap year, which is 6/14. How interesting. And I mentioned all these other things, you know. So Donald Trump's birthday was on the 166th day of the year. His name, Donald J. Trump, equals 1,189 in Gematria. Key of David equals 1,189 in Gematria. Pope Francis's 1,189th day as being the Pope was on Donald Trump's birthday this year. And there's 1,189 chapters in the King James Bible. Talked about all these other 166s with my uncle. I found out that he gave me the jersey at the Gold Slipper that equals 166. His wife's name's Betty and Barney and the Flintstones. Flintstones had 166 episodes. They were based off of a TV show called The Honeymooners. If you just write Honeymooners, it equals 166. So anyway, I was really tired, whatever, kind of just skimmed through some stuff. Because, I mean, how interesting. I've been talking about him for a couple weeks, and then he seemed completely fine on Christmas. You know, whatever, he had cancer, but he didn't seem like he was really that sick or anything else. And then 2 weeks later, he dies after getting in a car wreck, you know. And the car wreck story is kind of strange, as I'll get to. So, actually, you know what? One other thing I forgot to mention before we go on. So, I was talking about how I was typing not only that when Zachary K. Hubbard said not only that at the same time. If you write that out in Gematria, it equals 164. And in the very beginning of the video, I was talking about the 717 stuff. If you know, 717, if you write 717, it also equals 164. And a lot of stuff in regards to the Key of David and stuff I talked about in my main video in regards to it, it involved Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. And Kurt Donald Cobain, his full name equals 164. Just Kurt Cobain equals 114. You know, my uncle died on January 14th, 114. So, after he died or whatever, I found that out, and my girlfriend's mom came over or whatever and stayed the night. She uses her car to drive to work sometimes, and she has to get up really early, so she used the car to go to work. And I had made that post, and I went downstairs. The post I just talked about, I made it. I went downstairs to put some food in the refrigerator or whatever, and I noticed the Flintstones were on the TV. And the Flintstones are never watched in this house, ever. Unless I'm watching it for something like this. Nobody watches the Flintstones, ever. The Flintstones were randomly on, and I looked at the episode to see which one it was, and it was this one, the 114th episode. I mean, what are the odds of that? And the channel that it was on was the Boom channel, or also the Boomerang channel, channel 175 on Dish Network. My uncle died, you know, let me see if I can pull it up here. His birthday was July 23rd. We'll pull it up really quick. 7/23, and he died on 1/14. 175 days after his birthday, I go down on, and then he dies on January 14th. It's the 114th episode playing of the Flintstones at like 4 in the morning on channel 175. You know, it's just too weird. How does that happen? Boom in Gematria, that's what it is abbreviated on the Dish Network. In Jewish Gematria, it equals 132, just like the word cancer. And, you know, what's even weirder, I talked about my grandpa who died of cancer, this Barney's dad. His name, Gene Murphy, equals 132. He died on a date numerology of 132. He died of cancer. And the last uncle who died on this side was Mike. He died on the 132nd day of the year of cancer. It's just weird. But Boom equals 132. In simple gematria, it equals 45. Just like 13, just like Miami. My mom told me that he died at 4:50 p.m. 45. And I know that I have talked about this Boom channel before. I didn't go back and watch. It is something in regards to when I put out my Prince video, they copyright claimed my old video about 22 Jump Street. And it was right around the time that Obama had dropped the mic at the White House Correspondents' Deal and said, boom. So I didn't go look, but I know that there was something significant to this channel. Something happened to me with this channel before. And the reason it's so significant too is because all of the videos in regards to Prince were showing me the date of May 13th, 5/13, which 166 days is even sometimes 5 months, 13 days, a lot like 5/13. If you write out May 13th in Gematria, it equals 166. I mean, what are the odds of that? They're showing me this date like no other, and then it even coincides with all this new stuff that they're showing me with 166. The channel, like I said, actually called Boomerang. If you write out Boomerang, it equals 45 and 90. 90 a big number in regards to Freemasonry and whatever, but Boomerang equals 45, so just yet another 45. It also reminds me of, you know, boomerang. You throw it, it comes back like a cycle and a circle and pi. And 0.318 is connected to backwards pi. And, you know, 318 is all about Jesus. So just how interesting, I guess. I don't know how to put that all together in my head, but interesting, it comes back, you know. So the story that my mom told me in regards to how he died, or his car wreck, was he went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. I'm not sure what place it is or what, but he went there, and he's been going there for like Monday through Friday, and then he comes back, and then he goes back on Sunday night or something like that. But anyway, it was Friday afternoon then, and he called his wife, and when he left Minnesota, and when he got to Early, Iowa, he called his wife again and said he's in Early, which is about an hour away. And then he never showed up. It was like 2 hours later or whatever, more than an hour later, and he's still not home. And his wife got worried and called her brother. And then somewhere along the lines, they got a hold of the cops, and they found him, like, I'm assuming through his phone, like the little deal on his phone or whatever. Anyway, I guess they found him like 5 or 6 miles off of the main highway on a gravel road, and he had totaled his truck or something along the lines of that. That's all I got. That's what my mom told me. But I mean, how weird. What was he doing 5 miles off of the main highway and then wrecking his truck? And if you look at the map here, this is where Early, Iowa is. This is where I live. There's no reason. There's no shortcut to get on a gravel road. It doesn't really make that much sense why he would get off And it's funny, even the second destination says 1 hour, 14 minutes away. You know? So, I mean, who knows? Who knows what truly happened, how we got there? It's quite possible, he had bleeding on the brain. Possibly he did just have a stroke and got disoriented and drove whatever it was, 5, 6 miles out onto some gravel road and then just finally wrecked his truck. It makes sense that is possible, but it just still seems weird to me. I mean, it really is truly possible. I'm not dismissing that fact whatsoever, but I don't know. There's just the way it's connected by the numbers and everything else. It makes me wonder. And, he calls his wife in early Iowa, and all this exorcism stuff I'm talking about is in Erling, Iowa. So just interesting how much they sound alike. Erling. This even has, I've talked about it before, but it has the main 2 highways going in it, and it's a really small town, but Highway 191 is the main one you take if you're going to like Council Bluffs or whatever. And then I talked about 37, and 37 is a special number in regards to the like 111, 222, or whatever. If you take 111 and times it by, if you take 1 plus 1 plus 1, which equals 3, and then you take 3 times 37, it equals 111. You take 2 plus 2 plus 2, it equals 6. You take 6 times 37, it equals 222, and so on. So, 666. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. You multiply that by 37, it equals 666. It's just a special number in regards to building, I guess, And then 191 is all about the Jesuit order, which I'll get to in a second, because my uncle actually died 191 days before his birthday. Like I said, he was a 4th degree Knight of Columbus. Also, Erling, Iowa, and gematria equals 114, like the day that he died, January 14th. Early is even really close to Storm Lake, and I talked about the boy being ate by the alligator as well, in Orlando, Florida. Zoom out here. Early, Iowa is pretty much the next town, or, down this highway after Storm Lake. And I talked all about this. Storm Lake equals 114 to gematria. And it's also the college that I went to is there, Buena Vista. Buena Vista equals 114. That boy that got ate by the alligator died at Lake Buena Vista, Florida. And he's from Elkhorn, Nebraska, which the town that I live in is the exact halfway point, and it says that it's 1 hour and 14 minutes difference or whatever, both ways. So, or actually, no, I said that wrong. My town to Elkhorn, Nebraska, where that boy was supposedly from, was 1 hour and 14 minutes, the main route or whatever. So, I don't know. Just throwing that out there, it's not necessarily the next town, but it's just kind of interesting as I've talked about it a lot. Highway 71 here. I don't know, just throwing it out there. Something to think about, I guess. So, anyway, this 114th Flintstone episode, it was on at like 4 in the morning when I came downstairs. I went to bed, and I got up at probably noon or something, somewhere around there. And my daughter was watching cartoons, and I came downstairs and sat on the couch, and this commercial came on, and instantly I looked up at the TV, and it was a Fruity Pebbles commercial, and they had the Flintstones thing in the background, the Flintstones theme song and whatnot, and I thought, what in the world, I see the Flintstones when I go to bed, and then I wake up, and I sit on the couch, and the first thing that I notice on the TV is the Flintstone theme playing. And if you want to understand more of why the Flintstones are so important, go back and watch my previous videos. I even talked about when I dressed up like Jesus, and my cousin who I went to the bar with was Fred Flintstone for Halloween, and then his brother was the one who lives by where the Miami Dolphins play. And my uncle's, like I said, my Uncle Barney, he's married to Betty, like Barney and Betty Rubble. My mom's cat was missing, and yeah, just tons of stuff. So it made me wonder, in regards to him dying on January 14th, I wonder if it is connected to the tie symbolism that I talked about with the Chicago Cubs. And when I read his obituary, it talks about, I'll just pull it up here. And I apologize if people are mad about me doing this, but I just want to show that this coding exists not only in the media, it exists in people's real lives as well. I mean, it's very obvious that some of these media stories aren't real whatsoever. It's just super obvious. There's footage that proves it to be not real and proves things to be a drill, like the Fort Lauderdale thing, like the Alton Sterling thing. So I don't get the whole point of it all, you know? If you can script people's lives by the numbers, why would you fake news stories? You know, it just doesn't make that much sense, but it happens. So, like I said, I don't know the full meaning of truly why these things are happening, but even when they're faked by the numbers, and when they're real by the numbers. But anyway, just wanted to show that in his deal, so January 14th, I mean, if you don't believe me that I'm a real person or whatever, look it up for yourself. It's not that hard. I just want to show where it says that his favorite team was the Cubs. Favorite sport growing up, or favorite sport was baseball. Let me find it here. Here's where it talks about all these people he's met. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, even though Barack's spelled wrong. His favorite team was the Chicago Cubs. And I'll get more into this. He even went to a Chicago Cubs game on his 25th wedding anniversary in 2005. And in 2005 was the last time that there was a tie in Major League Baseball. I wanted to show that it says his favorite sport was baseball, and he was also a Cubs fan. And the interesting thing about that is that he died. My neighbor, just right down the street here, like the next house down, he like always had a huge Chicago Cubs flag and everything in his yard and whatnot. Huge Cubs fan. And after the Cubs won, ever since then, he got sick, and he's been in and out of the hospital. He has something wrong with his heart or whatever, and now he lives with one of his kids. And I was told by somebody that he might not even come back home. He might just end up staying with them until he dies or whatever. I mean, pretty weird that the Cubs win, and then all of a sudden, you know, that guy gets super sick after the Cubs win. I mean, just, I don't know. Seems strange. But let's move on here. So before I had talked about how my mom had texted me his name and his birthday and all that, and my mom was right on his birthday, but she added a letter in his name. She told me his name was spelled Bernard Allen Murphy, and Allen with two L's, but it's actually with one L, which, you know, super fitting, because if you read out his real name, Bernard Allen Murphy, 191, and he died 191 days before his 64th birthday. What are the odds of that, you know? Just a regular guy, I assume. But like I said, he is part of the Knights of Columbus, who every Knight of Columbus that I know is a super nice person. It just doesn't seem to me that these people are bad, but, you know, possibly there's a lot more to the story that I don't know. Just like Freemasons, I don't really know that many. But the two guys that I do know, they seem like legit nice guys, you know. I haven't seen them for a long time either, since they've been Freemasons either, so who knows? I mean, you know, I can't say anything bad about my uncle, even if he was involved in something like this, for the fact, you know, like, I don't know. My mom's dad died of cancer when she was still in high school, and Barney was the oldest of 9 kids or whatever. My mom was the 8th of 9. And he literally, when my grandpa died, he literally paid for everything. He gave up a lot of his life to take care of my mom and whatever, you know. So, I mean, he made sure they had food. He could have went on and did a lot of other things, and instead he took all of his money and he took care of his family, you know. even before my grandpa died, my mom said he took care of him when my grandpa was sick for a few years and whatnot. So it's like it's just hard to say. Like, I mean, I'm never gonna say that he's a bad guy, even if he was involved in something that was potentially bad and potentially what made him die by the numbers or something alike, But he totally died by the numbers. It's obvious. His name equals 191. He dies 191 days before his birthday. He was a 4th degree Knight of Columbus. And I know the Knights of Columbus aren't the same as the Jesuits and whatnot, but it's very, very similar and interrelated, Society of Jesus, what the Jesuits are called, equals 191, His funeral is going to be on Thursday, and on Thursday is January 19th, which could be written 19/1. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of guys dressed up like the Three Musketeers there. Before I had mentioned how he was born 3 months and 18 days before my birthday, or our birthdays were that apart, and talked about the second coming of Jesus Christ being mentioned 318 times in the New Testament. And his name equaled 203 with the 2 L's, but that's just because my mom spelled it wrong or whatever. And I asked her 166 days after his birthday, out of nowhere, and his name equaled Barney Murphy, what everyone calls him, equals 166. But anyway, his wife's name equals 203, her full name, so, how interesting. His name doesn't really equal 203, but his wife's does. And the reason 203 is so important is if you write out 318, it equals 203. I don't know if I talked about it in a video, but I posted about it. He also met the Pope, or he went and watched the Pope in 2008, I guess. It was, in his obituary, it even says, the Papal Mass of Pope Benedict XVI in Washington, D.C. on April 16th, 2008, which just so happened to be Pope Benedict's 81st birthday. And I think it was not even a year later, maybe it was a little bit after that, his wife won $250,000 on a lottery ticket, a scratch-off lottery ticket, It's like, how in the world? He goes and meets the Pope, and then she wins $250,000. Pope Benedict in Gematria equals 114, a lot like the day that Barney dies. Joseph Ratzinger is Pope Benedict's real name, equals 191, right? Just like my uncle's name, he dies 191 days before his birthday. Society of Jesus equals 191. Pope Francis is claimed to be the first Jesuit pope. I highly, highly doubt that. That's just what they want you to know, and that's just what they tell you. Pope Francis, completely tied into Freemasonry. Just look him up. You even find him with his hidden hand pose. The Masonic hidden hand pose that is done all throughout history with all kinds of famous people like Napoleon. But supposedly if you're a Jesuit or a Knight of Columbus, you can't be a Freemason. So how does that make sense that the first Jesuit pope or supposed Jesuit pope is doing the Freemason, hidden hand? It just doesn't make that much sense. It's because you're being lied to. And it's all interrelated and created to create division among people and among people's beliefs. So anyway, in regards to him being a Cubs fan and dying on January 14th, this was a big deal I talked about in regards to the Cubs and tie. The Cubs got their first tie on the same day as the Hoboken train wreck that supposedly injured 114 people. Then the Cubs went on and won the World Series and got their 114th win of the season and their 114th season being called the Cubs. If you write out tie in Gematria, it equals 114. I talked about how the last tie in Major League Baseball was in the year 2005 when the Houston Astros tied the Cincinnati Reds 114 days before the World Series that year, and Houston made the World Series and lost to the Chicago White Sox, who hadn't won the World Series in 88 seasons. The Cubs were super all about 88. They were cursed by the curse of the Billy Goat. Curse of the Billy Goat equals 88 in Gematria. My uncle was married on 8/8 of 1980, And I remember my other uncle even telling me a story how he quit drinking on 8/8 of the year 88. You know, reminding us of Curse of the Billy Goat. He's a Cubs fan. The Cubs just win the World Series. 88 is a huge number in regards to the Curse of the Billy Goat even. Check out my Steve Bartman incident video. Steve Bartman, that happened in 2003, the 88th season where the Cubs played in Wrigley. They had 88 regular season wins. When the Steve Bartman incident happened, the Marlins scored 8 runs in the 8th inning to come back and win. Even the lady who voices Bart Simpson, Nancy Jean Cartwright, her name equals 88 in Gematria. And her 57th birthday this year was the day the World Series began, October 25th. And if you write out World Series, it equals 57. She turned 57 in that Bartman video. I mean, sorry for going on a tangent, but in the Bartman video of Bart Simpson from the early 90s, they even show him in jail with the little tag or whatever, A113, Steve Bartman sitting in seat 113. Lots more, but anyway, so 88, my uncle gets married on 8/8 of 1980, and then on his 25th anniversary, they go to the Cubs game on 8/8 of 2005, the last time that there was a tie. And what's interesting is 8/8 of 2005, the Cubs lost to Cincinnati, the team who tied Houston in 2005. You know, it's pretty weird. Tie equals 114. I also noticed, you know, in one of the original videos talking about my uncle, I talked about how there was something connected to my brother, and they were showing me the tribe of Dan and Daniel on the lion's den and Dan. Dan in English Gematria equals 114. Also, in that same video, it was all about Kurt Cobain and stuff, and Nirvana, Kurt Cobain equals 114. Christ, Novoselic, right? Chris, but he spells it looks a lot like Christ. Christ, Novoselic equals 114. Dave Grohl, the drummer, was born on January 14th, right? His birthday was the day that my uncle died, 114. There was a big deal about Come As You Are. I even talked about I watched the video, and then a deal popped up and said, can't remember what it said, something about the key, and I was talking about the key of David, and Francis got key, and that's why Colin Kaepernick was so significant and not standing during the national anthem, because Francis Scott Key wrote the national anthem. But I'll leave these videos in the description. You can watch them, but January 14th can even be written 14/1. You know, how interesting. 141. I never took a screenshot of it, but the other night when I was watching the Packers game, you know, I'm talking about the first and last and some other things in regards to the Packers, and I sit down and start watching, and the first stat I see when they're playing the Cowboys is Aaron Rodgers has 166 passing yards. The very next play, he throws a pass to Geronimo Allison, and I've talked about all of this and how it connects to just tons of stuff that I've been talking about since the beginning of the season. The Packers playing the 49ers in the preseason game where Colin Kaepernick didn't stand up. Geronimo Allison being the lead receiver of that game, and a whole bunch more. I'm not going to go into it, but just interesting that as I'm writing this post up or whatever, and then, well, maybe it wasn't when I was writing it up, but, or actually I think it was. I was getting confused because it said Monday. Yeah, I posted it at 2:11 in the morning, so it was just after midnight. That's why it says Monday. It was the same night. So, I guess I don't know what else to say. Hopefully that makes sense, but, you know, my uncle totally died by the numbers. There's probably more that I'm not seeing. Have a good one.